You ready? You're listening to the Real Pineapple Podcast Network. Your humble host Hunter here. Happy Friday weekend whenever you get a chance to check this out. I am really excited about my guest today. You know him from directing Take the Shot and Wiped. You're going to know him soon from his new film here, Betrayal, which we're going to be talking about today. Rodger Griffiths. Rodger, how you doing today?
Not too bad, Hunter. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well, sir. Again, thank you so much for making the time. Uh,
No
so I
problem.
checked So I checked out Betrayal yesterday, and I believe in not bullshitting my guests or bullshitting my audience. I will simply say I fucking love this movie. I was so excited watching it from start to finish, and I was screaming, I was hooting, I was hollering. My partner actually came in the room like, "What are you watching?" I was like, "Oh my God, like I can't even I don't even want to tell you about it. I want you to watch it yourself." Um, so talk to me about how this concept even came together because what I think I love about it is I love films that are very psychological, very kind of Twilight Zone-esque, and I think the layers in which you put with your characters is so fascinating. So can you talk to me a little bit about your writing process and how this concept came together?
Well, like I wrote the first draft of the script many years ago. It kind of started off as like three brothers going on a hunting trip, and they kind of turn on each other. And then when the producers Claire Mundell and Lee Brazier came on board, we developed it further as a team. And the one thing that our theme that we wanted to kind of explore was can with an abusive upbringing, can you escape from that, or do you become that person? And the main kind of way that was explored was through the two older brothers. Basically, there are two different sides of that argument.
Yeah.
Um, Henry is kind of losing he's losing that argument, where his brother John is trying to hold on and be a good person. So that's how we kind of thought that we wrote it, and then Rob Drummond came on board and did some writing on it too. So we yeah, we ended up with this script that we wanted to have like be an elevated genre that has something to say, but within the kind of thriller, kind of horror narrative.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway for me, really from jump, I love how you establish like the power dynamic with the father. Like he's just like he's not a good person, and like there's no like I think in media we've gotten too obsessed with almost like redeeming our villains. Like sometimes I just want someone to be a piece of shit and just and for the script to stick with that. And what I found about what I loved about the father, the actor you guys got to play him was he was perfect. Um was there ever a discussion about like how abusive like to make him? Because I think you can kind of almost like jump the shark if you get too cartoonish with it. Were there any conversations about like how to do right that aspect of it?
Yeah, so Paul Higgins, the actor who played Don, he's very much his approach is he didn't want to play Don as a you know an antagonist. He wanted to play him as a real person. So
Yeah.
when we were going into the background of things, he was always asking about the background of Don, his upbringing, what's his relationship to the boys, what's his relationship to his wife. And we did with the cast, we did some like pre kind of backstory improvs and rehearsal. So situations that happened in the past, we would do an improvisation of one of them was like Dawn catching the boys when they're like 12 or 13, going off the grounds at a point, and how, he manipulated the boys and sort of struck the fear of God in them.
Oh wow, okay.
So all of these like sort of background in impros, it let the actors explore the characters, and then they could sort of take that backstory and experience in within into the shoot then.
Was one thing I really love too is that and this is another peeve that you completely avoid, which thank you, is that you really trust your audience to go ahead and follow the story. Like you're not spoon feeding your audience. Like things are happening in real time, but then there are obviously flashbacks to go ahead and fill in the gap. Was that something you determined that you wanted to do narratively from jump, as far as not just going from like them being kids to adults and using the flashbacks? Like, was there any conversation about the narrative structure early on, or?
I think we wanted that. There was like a film called a British film called Dead Man's Shoes.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
Has this narrative in it where it flashes back and forwards in time, and what you think has happened in the past doesn't is actually different. And we wanted to use those two kind of the flashbacks and the present tense to propel the story forward and give the audience some nuggets of information that might lead them the wrong way, or make them suspect different things. Um, so it was like, yeah, and also as well, and when it comes to the edit, you have shot your flashbacks and your present tense drama, but Rachel, our editor, helped us like find you know the right spots within the narrative itself to let the give the audience information just at the right time.
Yeah. Um, Another thing I really love about this is the paranoia as far as how you ramp it up and how you ramp up the violence, because there were multiple points like once so I'm a sucker for good sound editing, especially when it comes to gunshots, and anytime there was a gunshot I was like on the edge of my seat, like freaking out in the best way, especially with the night sequences, which um, I always love to ask directors is how much of a pain in the ass is it to shoot at night? Because that because all the night sequences I thought worked so well, really ramping up that paranoia. But I'd imagine logistically that's just a pain to shoot and get those shots.
Yeah, it's well, we were shooting in the summertime, and usually it's the other way around, where when you're shooting, you run out of light, and that's a bad thing. But because it was the middle of the summer, and in Scotland as well, like it gets bright at like 3:30 in the morning, and
Oh
like
geez.
doesn't
Okay.
get in the summertime, and then dark at like 11:30. So we didn't actually have that much nighttime. But Alistair, or DOP, he was very good at sort of lighten the dark. So, like, it sounds a little bit silly, but like when you're shooting, you have to, like, if you're shooting at night, you have to kind of like light it and give enough definition, in the forest and like that, by using various different lights to cast a soft shadow.
Mhm.
Um, one film that we God, what was it called? Um, there was a film that we used for a reference for the night shoot. In terms of the colors that we wanted. We wanted a more kind of earthy kind of color, compared to the kind of blue, like moonlight hue that you'd normally get within a film.
Okay.
Um, I forget the name. It's a film with Christian Bale in it that we used as a reference. But yeah, it is. It's a bit of a nightmare shooting at night. It's logistically, it's tough. It's a health and safety thing as well. Like two guys running through woods in the middle of the night. They could trip over something, or
Fair.
break their leg or something like that. So our stunt coordinator, Steve, he was like, whatever pathway that we had to, the actors had to walk on, he was like checking the ground just to make sure there was no like tree stumps or anything like that that they could trip over. So yeah, logistically it is tough.
So yeah, talk to me about the stunt work because I mean there's a sequence where I mean I'm not gonna give too much away, but there's a sequence where the dad falls into the trap, which because I'm always looking for like quick cuts and stuff like that, and there's really not a lot of that in here. Like you really stay on the shot. Um, but yeah, talk to me about the stunt work. Like what was the hardest stunt to go ahead and like pull off in this movie, if you can say without spoiling too much.
Well, I guess the toughest one was probably uh, it involves two men going through a window. That's all I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
But so we had to. Um, I think we had three goals at it
Okay.
with two men coming out of a window. But we had to it was all on location. That it wasn't a studio build or anything like that. So we had to remove a window from a house and then put the special impact glass, stunt glass, in that window, and then have the stunt happen and then reset again. So that means clean up all the glass, getting everything back to the very beginning again, and
Mm.
then going forward. But I think we had three goes on it, and yeah, I think the first go was the best go, but sometimes that's the way it works out.
My note for that scene is holy crap, they went through the glass. This movie fucking rules. That's my that's it. So um so one thing I also loved about this, I realize I'm just saying all the things I love, but I really like I I watched this yesterday, then I watched it again this morning because I was really trying to find things to like critique and I really couldn't find any. I was when I say I was on the edge of my seat, I really was on the edge of my seat, just enjoying this. One thing I love about this are some of the transitions you have. Like there's a like a that window scene. There's like a door closing, and it goes into that window sequence, and like the transition is like seamless. Like, was that a conscious decision? Editing wise, or was that something that you guys were doing in post and you realized, oh, we can make it look cooler by doing this? Like, was that something that you kind of set out to do, or?
I think we did. We wanted, yeah. I think that the link between scenes is always very important for things being smooth. A lot has to do with sound design as well, and sound effects and how you can use that to sort of describe the narrative. Like one small like transition, you probably wouldn't even notice it. Is like I think it's Henry and John are they're sneaking through the forest. They hear gunshots above them, and it's just like one shot to the next shot. Feels because of sound design like almost like they're in two different areas because the Atmos, the sound mixers used, they changed it in between shots. So
Mm.
one minute you feel they're in one part of the forest, with this change in Atmos sound, it feels like you're in another part of the forest. So it's kind of subtle, really. These kind of you know tools that you can use to have transitions in time and the likes of that. So it's yeah, it is a conscious decision, like going forward in pre-production and production. But there also is a you know a kind of you can still work on it in the edit and when you're working with the sound and music as well.
Yeah.
So you know sometimes you're covering up the cracks as well, like just sort of.
Fair enough. One thing that I really did, another thing I really enjoyed is how you show the relationship that the mother has with the sons, and without spoiling too much, I found that that was the part that probably emotionally just hit me in the gut the most. I was angry watching her scenes and just It's so frustrating. But in the best way. Um, how was it casting that role? Because one of the things I always talk about is that um especially in a film like this where there aren't too many roles, if you have one person who's not there to do their job, the whole film can fall apart. And it felt one thing I loved about this is everyone clearly knew the assignment, knew what to bring to their role, and like how to work with each other. So, but I feel like the mom's kind of the linchpin of the story, so you need to nail that casting. So, can you talk to me about that casting process and making sure you got the right person for that role?
Well, when we got Anita, Anita, as a person, within 3 minutes, you kind of like, fall in love with her because she's such a nice, sweet person, really. She's a brilliant actress, and she's also a screenwriter as well.
Hmm. Okay.
And when we were kind of talking about the character of Kate, Anita did do a lot of research already on domestic abuse and how coercion starts, and how somebody in that relationship, years pass and you don't even know that you got drawn into this abusive relationship.
Yeah.
So like, me and her thought that we wanted to come from a very kind of truthful perspective of how women are treated in these abusive relationships. So we wanted to make it authentic. Really, that was the most important thing for me and Anita, for sure.
So I'll ask this because I feel like this is something that's not asked enough. So as you know, as a guy, obviously, domestic abuse coming at it from that angle, there is that there are certain directors, I'll be nice and not name names, that might um not fetishize it, but almost make it like TV movie level cartoony, like where it loses the serious nature of what this situation is. And I love the point you just brought up about how time can just feel like it passes and it just becomes your norm. What did you do as the writer of this film? Taking off the director hat for a second, what did you do as a writer to make sure you didn't fall into any of those pitfalls? Because the way you present this, and I just want to compliment you real quick again, the way you present this, the gravity never leaves the situation. And that's probably the biggest compliment I can give you about this movie is like I felt the weight of the situation the whole way through and it never felt like it let up. So yeah, can you kind of talk about how you were able to avoid falling to that?
Well, it's obviously in the script that Rob and I wrote. I would say that, like, choosing your kind of directing style, like, the violence in this film is real violence. It's not a stylized violence or anything like that. We always wanted to make the violence very real, very authentic, and like, when violence happens in the film, it's shocking. Um,
Yeah.
so like, I never wanted to sort of, I do like big action films and the likes of
Oh yeah.
that, but I I never wanted to sort of like make the violence over the top in this film. I just wanted to feel it, like visceral and real. Um, well, and I guess that came through the script that we wrote. How the actors responded to it. But yeah, that it was just a very conscious decision, even with the stunt coordinator, who can offer you hundreds of different, like, scenarios of what you can do with, with punch and the likes of that. He understood as well from reading the script that, like, the violence has to be down and, like, desperate and, quite real, and not over stylized in any kind of way.
Yeah, and I think you guys absolutely nailed that. Last question, because I'm being told now I've got one question. I
All
always
right.
love that. I always love to ask my director to as we head out, what is the biggest once audiences get a chance to see this, and I'm really excited for audiences to see this, is there a message, a moral that you want your audience to take away from this once the credits roll?
Um, well, I think that it's very much a character-driven piece, even though it's a thriller narrative. And I hope that the kind of you know, the three brothers are kind of like this three different facets of this like abusive upbringing,
Mhm.
and they've all reacted it differently in their certain ways, and I think John, the protagonist, is he's the one that kind of holds the brothers together, and he's kind of overcome this abusive upbringing, so to speak. So yeah, I guess that would be kind of the main message. But like it's a genre film, and like I want audiences to be thrilled by it, but it's got deeper meanings as well.
Absolutely. Well said. Rodger, sir, this was an absolute blast. Thank you so much for talking to me and taking the time.
Hunter.
Um, can you please tell audiences where they can see the film and then if they can follow you on social media before I let you get out of here?
So the film's coming out in America on the 6th of September, and I think it's getting released by VOD and maybe possibly a small theatrical release. I'm not too sure.
Okay.
And I actually don't have any social media,
Oh,
so like I don't know, just the way it is.
fair enough. Rodger, again, sir, thank you so much, so much for taking the time. I can't wait for people to see this. I hope this film does well, and I can't wait to see what you do next, sir. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today.
Thanks very much, Hunter. It's great talking to you as well.
Likewise, sir, you take care.
Okay, bye now.